going to do is kind of do an informal. I'm going to present for a few minutes on sort of some of the themes and forms in my book, and then Amit was going to present on some of his stuff, and then we're going to do a quick little offer interview and sort of, take questions from y'all as well. So I wanted to start. I'm just going to read from, just real quick, just kind of give you an idea. So what I would like to talk about in my book is it's sort of the way that it plays with form. So what this storytelling, this collection is sort of a collection of what are called metafictions. So those are stories about storytelling, and I use a lot of forms that are sort of different from what you might see in like a traditional fiction format. And I just want to talk for a few minutes about what those forms are and what they mean. So I was going to read real quick. I have it's called Orpheus to the White Sky. It's a narrative poem that exists in the collection. You can kind of use that as a jumping off point to talk about how fictional forms are solidified. So this is also sort of a sci-fi piece as well. So it takes place in sort of a post-apocalyptic, climate-riddled future. So it's called Orpheus to the White Sky. It says, we don't know who to pray to anymore, not without the clouds. We don't even know how to keep hearing the roars of gastric thunder, which always signified your fierce hunger for more blood. Now just a clean buzz with occasional pop, zap, ping, ping, ping. The sound reminds how if it weren't for the bugs, we'd have no one left to play these justice scales like steel drums. I, for one, empty my spit valve, concentrating on the moment I might break through the sulfuric dioxide, the cover-up for the night sky, like an Afghan woven from threads of fake news. Oh, how history spun its yarns through the holes in the naive geoengineer's plans to provide his absence. White hard hats and white lab coats and white earpieces, extending from silver stethoscopes not listening to the cries. And so it was with my own tears from Mother Earth, I who had pledged to offer myself as a sacrifice the whole time, I who had become a Christ in the next life, when the blood flow produced by my own crown of thorns would reroute its course inward, following the directions my father never bothered to take, toward the only other side there is. Now my trumpet is a lullaby for diminishing congregations, and these are not metaphors. In this world, the sky actually required our intervention, the sun too bright, so overwhelmed we forgot how to die right, and so left to our own devices, we chose the most irreversible action like a circle, rounding out its own form as a choke chain by squeezing the breath out of a slender neck. But it wasn't just us who could no longer inhale emptiness when the rising coastlines and temperatures had forced the population toward the poles, when the food supply had gone from surplus to deficit, when my own sweet wife was lost forever in the great flood of 35, the diluvial generational moment, our 911, our JFK assassination, we had no other choice. We turned the sky white, and along with it, everything else in sight. But that had been an unintended consequence. True, we had known it was risky, why we waited as long as we did, always supposed to be a last-ditch effort. It did cool the planet, that part happened, the way the heat got reflected off by the atmosphere, but it also caused a luminescent and foggy glare. The first time it rained, we noticed how the lightning strikes were no longer pointed, instead mere halos reflected in the newly clear ocean waters. Whole roll of fluorescent bulb. No one had the foresight to see how blue had always framed our perceptions, that without it, the shapes faded, and we were no longer a people, we were no longer the people, we were no longer, or I was no longer standing at the end of the world hoping to find her in the death of my mother, blowing my horn for an audience of half-life phonies, of real-time elitists, of anyone who no longer had the ability to distinguish themselves. It was there that the sweet music heard me extinguish everyone else. Like the last note of a symphony, eclipsing the horizon of a rock too silent by nature to vibrate erosive inside the entropy of sound. And so if you'll notice in that, I have this sort of